Reading from the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, chapter 1, book 1, chapter 1, text 28. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vicitrotkṛṣṭa-vastūni niṣpādya mahā-manāḥ āvaśyakaṁ samāpyādau saṁskṛtya mahatīṁ sthalīm. Having collected all sorts of valuable items for worship of the Lord, the generous Brahmin then sought to the preliminaries, first by purifying a large area of the ground. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Taksu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Sapadantikam Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you first. The Wednesday group is really the core regulars, so I'm very thankful for that. So we have this story within a story within a story. The story is Srila Goswami. His order from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is to present and explain what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give. Many times I explained it's not an ordinary thing. One point that is stuck out in my teachings is from the first verse, the Parama Dasha Antim, Parama Supreme Antim. Dasha means stage, the supreme end stage of transcendence. And he has to explain that. That's called the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta. So he prays, and then Chaitanya Dev, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, and Chaitanya Dev, the mercy of the Paramatma, he begins his narration. And it's Janame Jaya, the son of Marge Prickett, wanting a synopsis of what he's heard from Jaimini Rishi, which was the Mahabharata, but with more focus on the personality of Krishna. You can explain something in different ways. You can reveal it deeper and deeper. So he asked, Janamajaya asked Jaimini Rishi, Madhuram Samāpyādau. Yeah, you've been teaching this Mahabharata, it's so relishable. End it with something even more sweeter. So he begins to narrate the story of Maharaj Prickett in his last days after he finishes the Bhagavatam, and he's ready to be silent and fix his mind, and his mother comes and she wants to hear a synopsis. He becomes excited to explain Krishna-katha and tells this story of Narada Muni looking for the topmost recipient of Krishna's mercy. And it begins in Prayag, where the Triveni is, the three holy rivers, the most auspicious time of the month, Magh, at the most auspicious time of the decade, which is the Magh Mela, where the nectar is coming from the demigods, an after bath, and in pure consciousness. And the sadhus are just before the deities of Madhava. And they're feeling this connection, and they're just overwhelmed with incredible devotion and a deep sense of humility. And that becomes their lens. And when each one sees another Vaishnav, he just says, you're the topmost recipient of Krishna's mercy. But them being in that feeling mercy themselves, they don't like the sense of greatness or entitlement or being centered, and they go, no, you're and this parasparam, glorifying each other. So this is the mood, and Narada is there kind of in disguise, but he's relishing with the other Vaishnavas, this Sanga at the Kumbh Mela. He's just so much deeply relishing this. And as he's relishing this, he sees the leader, a big spiritual leader. He's like a Brahmin, and he's showered with opulence by his disciples, and it's obvious that he's and he sees him walking to come to Kumbh Mela. And then he's watching, and he's seeing that when he gets to his spot, he starts to worship. And so now we're seeing it through the eyes of Narada Muni. And he's seeing this great devotee. And now there's description. He collects valuable items. Vicitrotkṛṣṭa-vastūni. Vastūni means the substance. Vicitra, various items. And niṣpādya, he was collecting them. And, that's bhakti. You offer the best to Krishna. That's really the consciousness. That's why in temples, the prasad can be so elegant, opulent, even if the devotees eat very simple and sumptuous. It's the expression of love, the best for Radha Govinda, like that. The best. Bhakti means to offer the best, and therefore where there's bhakti, there's beauty. It's not dry. There's flowers, there's food, there's nice music. To offer the best. One of the items of devotional service mentioned by Rupa Goswami is to offer a favorite item. I remember one person thought, a young straight edge kid came to our first BIHE, and he said, I offer my sweatshirt. But we corrected it. No, it was with Krishna's favorite item. It's not yours. Of course, whatever you like best, you can offer with the most devotion. That's certainly a principle of devotional service. So he collects valuable items. And the beauty of bhakti is what's excellent is relative. I mean, if there's a very, very wealthy person, his worship will be more opulent. And a very, very simple person, Patram pushpam palam toyam yo me bhakt. If you offer me with fruit, flour, water, I will accept it. But it's hard for a very wealthy person just to offer one banana. But, a very poor person, that may be his devotion. The item you offer carries your devotion. So it has to be valuable to you to carry your devotion. But, and in that regard, I was explaining, I gave class last night here at Jack's place, and Nava Nilacha that I'm here. And I was explaining my visit to the Shaker village, 1,400 acres, 24 buildings. They built everything themselves. And it was such high quality craftsmanship, everything, that it was incredibly devotionally inspiring, even looking at their bedrooms. Everything wood, it was very simple, but everything wood. What are those windows called?
Single pane?
Single pane windows and kind of thick walls, and everything was just so fine. But you can see, hand to God, heart, hand to work, heart to God. That was their saying. Hand to work, heart to God. But this person, of course, he was very wealthy. And then he performed the āvaśyakaṁ. What was required is purity. Prabhupada said the most important things in deity worship is punctuality and cleanliness. So he purified the area. There's a tremendous effect of environment on consciousness. So just like before you worship the deity, there's always preliminaries. The whole idea of spiritual life is we are working on changing our identity from the false egotistical conception, I am the enjoyer, to I'm the servant of Krishna, which becomes specified as we advance in Krishna consciousness. So when you worship the deity, you have to do it in a spiritual identity. That's what tilak is about. You may see this dark tilak. I just made a decision. There's some tilak in Radhakund, and I don't know if it has charcoal in it or something, but it stays on. So it stays on. And I found out how to do with the stick, so it stays on. The other Gopi Chandan, it cracks on your face, and it just, after a while, no one wants to wear it anymore. But the whole idea with this is identity. You're putting on tilak with names of God. It is identity. I'm a servant of God. Tilak means I belong to Guru and Krishna. And therefore, there's bhuta-shuddhi, purifying the body or the matter. It's just changing the identity, spiritualizing the body. You spiritualize the body to the extent it's used for Krishna. So you spiritualize the body. Of course, the basic thing is Naham Vipro Chanarapatir Vaishno Nasudro Gopi Bharta Pata Kamalor Dasa. I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this. I'm servant of the gopis. And that's the whole purpose with taking a guru. It's the changing of identity. There's the changing of identity. I think in a different way. I think I'm servant of Guru and Krishna, rather than I'm servant of this mind and this body and this ego. And that's what Prabhupada gave, and that's what I liked about the old school. You know, you could say one thing, but living in those temples and running around and doing service, and it was something. That identity. I'm servant of Guru and Krishna. So also purifying the ground around it. Just like Krishna, they destroyed. He picked up the Dhanurdhara demon and he knocked down all the trees in the forest because the whole area was contaminated by the demon Dhanurdhara. It was contaminated, so he had to kind of do it again, because the environment affects the. That's why someone who's serious sadhakas, they have their asana and no one else sits on it. Kind of a subtle effect of purity. Next verse. Satvaram chatvaram tatra madhye nirmaya sundaram upalipya swahastena vitanan yuddha tanayat. So we're watching through the eyes of Narada. Therefore, he swiftly built a handsome altar, which he smeared with mud with his own hand and covered with a canopy. So, although he was so wealthy, he was completely surrendered to Krishna. He didn't let the wealth be used as a facility to serve a false egoistic conception that I am superior and better than everyone. His consciousness was, I'm the servant of Krishna. And it's very impressive when someone has that type of facility, but maintains that type of humility that I am a servant of Krishna. And one way is by opulently worshiping the deity. So he's impressive. Everything he used only for Krishna's pleasure, and he satisfied everyone. Again, that same concept of Atiti Bhagavan, the guest is God, just so you don't develop that conception that this is my castle, this is my eternal relationships. Material conception and attachments can become so strong. Shalagram Shila Rupam Krishnam Sunarsane Shubhe Nivesha Bhaktya Sampuja Yata Vidi Mudhabrata. Next, he placed Lord Krishna's form as the Shalagram Shila on an auspicious golden throne and worshiped the Lord with great devotion. Joyfully, he performed the prescribed rituals. So I explained, Confucius describes rituals as things you do to conform yourself to something higher than yourself. But ritual can also have a sense of something that becomes monotonous or mechanical, but it wasn't the case with him. The ritual is just a vehicle for his love, and bhakti sanjayate bhakti. The more he did rituals, the more it was enthused with devotion. Yeah, if you have bhakti, you may do the same things, but in a different manner. Bhogam paradi samagrim arpayitva grita hare swayam nityam gita bhajya dabish chakre mahotsavam. In front of Lord Hari, he placed food, clothes, and other offerings. He made a one-man festival by dancing, singing, playing music, and so on. So Narada is worshiping this. So only the best. Offering different upachars, different items. Swagatam, shasvatam, welcoming the deity. Sthalīm, have a seat. Padyam, wash the feet. Agyam, offer some spices and water. Akshmanayam, you clean them out. Eshamada paka, some milk and some honey, and just you're welcoming your guest. And then flowers, and then some scent. So you're welcoming God. When you have a deity in the home, the deity is the guest. In the temple, it's the king of the county. That's why we don't eat before we worship the deity. Because it's like you have a guest, and he comes down in the morning, you're sitting there stuffing your face. But, it is culture. And culture is so important. How we relate to our world in a way to elevate our consciousness and create, elevate us and enable us to relate. I gave the three elements. When you have culture, a proper environment, what does how does it affect the consciousness? The proper culture teaches one and inspires one to relate to people appropriately according to your relationship with them. And it teaches you also, therefore, how to communicate with people, to relate and learn how to learn. Proper people who are cultured. Remember when Tamal Krishna Maharaj went to the university, even though he was an acharya, and this one teacher became his mentor, he would carry his books. He would carry his books to the next, to the classroom. Can I carry your books? Because of being in India and learning the culture. That's what happens. You know how to learn. You know how to relate. You know how to communicate. Anyway, he placed food, clothes, and other offerings, and then he he sang and he danced, because when there is bhava in the heart, the nature of bhav is anubhav. There has to be actions that follow it. So the main expression of love is the expression of love, which is called kirtan. And then the body feels like dancing. So Narada is watching this, and you could actually see devotion in someone by how they move and how they ring the bell and because their actions are love, which is different than fruitive. Fruitive conception is how you finish it. The faith in Vaidhi and the faith in Raganuga is a little bit different. The faith in Vaidhi is this activity will please Krishna and give me bhakti when I complete the activity. And Raganuga is this activity will please Krishna by how I do the activity, not how I complete the activity. So Tato Veda Paranadi Vyakya Bhir Vadako Vidan Vibram Pranamya Yatino Grihino Brahmacharina. He then offered homage to the Brahmins who were present, who were expert in arguing from the Vedas, Puranas, and other texts. And he also offered respect to the sannyasis, householders, and brahmacharis. After he finished his worship, he was just using that consciousness of devotion and humility to honor God in the hearts of others. Otherwise, you become hypocritical. And I remember I read this someplace that if you worship God in the temple, but don't treat the devotees properly, it's not pleasing to God, your worship, because and the example is like at the home, the husband or wife treats their spouse nicely, or outside they treat them nicely, but in the home they're nasty, then it's not love. It's pretension. So there has to be a consistency between our worship of God and how we worship God in the hearts of others. So he's very advanced. So he's worshiping the Brahmins who are expert in debating the Shastra. Guru Goste Gostalishu Sujanapushara Sumantri Si Namni Vrajanava Yuga Dvandvaharane Guru Goste. Incessantly we should be worshiping Guru Goste Gostalishu. Goste, I think the devotees and the holy places, Sujanabu Shiragane, and the Brahmins. And the Brahmins in society who perform the rituals, etc. They might not be the pure Vaishnavas, but the Brahmins. Mukunda Murari, a friend of mine, he told me he was on a prikram with Narayan Maharaj in Radhakund, and the Pandits started to harass some of the devotees, and the devotees were getting angry. There was an argument. And then Narayan Maharaj came with 100 rupee notes and started giving them to all the Brahmins, saying, Goro, Goste, Gostalishu, Sujana Bhusharagane. I used to hate that, those Pandits that used to harass us. But now I just incorporate it in part of my state erotica. Of course, I have my good friend Mohan Panta. I went to his house for Prashadam. It was nice. Okay, so he offered to everyone. Vaishnavam Chashada Krishna Kirtananda Samāpyādau Sabahum Madurai Vyakir Vyavaharas Chaharshiyam. And he honored the Vaishnavas who are always greedy to enjoy the bliss of glorifying Krishna. Thus he encouraged the many respectable persons there with attractive words and behaviors. So it's so beautiful. He has the devotion in his heart. He worships the deities, and then he sees God in the hearts of all others. And he respects them. But here, special respect to the Vaishnavas, Siddha, who always Krishna Kirtana Ananda, Lampatam, who were, Lampatam means always greedy for Krishna Kirtan Ananda. And this is the symptom of advancement of devotee, is his attraction to hear Krishna-katha. To hear Krishna-katha. Your desire to hear about Krishna is exactly commensurate with your level of spiritual advancement. Pada socha jalam tesham darayam shirasi swayam bhagavat yapi taish tavad anadigvir apujya. After placing on his head the water that washed their feet, he worshipped those persons with the food and other items he had presented to the Supreme Lord. So he honored anything in relationship to Krishna with, and Narada Muni was watching this. It was, you could see the face is the index of the mind. There's a book by Malcolm Gladwell. I don't read much, but I read his short books on sociological phenomena, and they're relevant. I find them. And this one was about what I would call the level of unconscious competence. He gave so many examples of the mind working faster unconsciously than consciously. And then it somehow came, and I described this before, that there were these scientists and sociologists that understood that the muscles of the face represent certain emotions. And you could see that. You could turn off a movie and basically know what the emotions are. So Narada Muni could see the emotions of devotion and humility and ecstasy. And he saw it by, he saw it by the way their face was and their actions. And then he worshiped these persons with the prasadam and other items he presented. Bhojayitva tato dinam antyajan apisadaram atoshayad yatadhyayam swashingala kagagrinim. Next, he respectfully fed everyone else, including the most fallen outcasts, in suitable ways. He satisfied even the dogs, jackals, birds, and insects. So Vaishnava respects every living entity. Vidyavaniya sampane, brahmaniga vihashtani, sunichaiva swapake cha pandita samadarshana. He's equal vision. So he worships everyone. I guess he was putting some sweets on the ground for the ants, the dogs, and everybody. The main thing is he's thinking of others before himself. He's thinking of others before himself. I always give the example of my uncle, Rabbi Alexander Good, who was a chaplain on the USS Dorchester when it sunk, and how him and the other 4 chaplains of Catholic and Protestant faith got everybody off the ship first. They got everybody off the ship first. And there weren't enough lifeboats. Many people survived. They went down with the ship, arm in arm, singing the Psalms of David. Yeah, they're honored. There's when I spoke at the National Cathedral, the Church of Washington, at their school, St. Albans, they have a very high-end school. I spoke in their chapel. There was a stained glass window, and my uncle was in there. And my mother used to go to talks about him and things like that. But that idea of a saintly person that thinking of others before themselves, and that's spiritual life on any platform. The person who thinks of himself before others is not, it's the exact opposite of saintliness. Of course, you know, when the plane is going down, you put your oxygen mask on first and then help your child. So there's a sense of self-care. We don't neglect it. And we do have psychological and physical needs. But the mood of a Vaishnava is to think of others before themselves. That's the mood of a person of character. So he's feeding everyone. Manina madane na. Okay, Jack, you got to go to work?
Yeah, you get ready.
The nectar is really coming now. The high stuff is not. Okay, you got to go to work. Amane na, madane na. Amane na, madane na. Not accepting respects for oneself and offering all respects to others. So this is such a beautiful thing. Evam santar pita shesha samadishto ta sadhubi parivarai samam shesham saharsham bhubajay mritam. When he had thus satisfied everyone, the holy men invited him to take the remnants of the sacrifice. With his family and followers, then leaders of the with his family and followers, that leader of the Brahmin then enjoyed the nectarian prasad with great delight. Nectarian prasad with great delight. Yeah, again, you know, the modern prasad taking is if there's 6 people, they all sit down. Even if someone hosts you, they all sit down. But the real cultured people, they serve. They serve people. Then they sit down. So here, he's just, only after every living entity in the vicinity was fed and pleased did the host with his family and servants honor Lord Madhava's prasad. This food was now amritya, the elixir of immortality, a sheer delight to taste, because it had been offered to Lord Krishna in devotional service. Nama Brahmani Vaishnavi. What is that? Mahaprasad Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnave Swalpa Punya Rato Rajam Vishvaso Navajayate. Even a little bit. It's very purifying. It's very hard in this world to get into the habit of only prasadam. But religious people do that. Religious people know how to make sacrifice. They don't live in their world of convenience. They don't live in their world of convenience. And the pleasure of serving. Tito bimukam agatya Krishnasya rachitanjali tasmin evar payam asa sarvam tatphalam sanchayam. After this, he again went before the Shalagram deity of Lord Krishna, and with folded hands, he offered to the Lord all pious credit and by sacrifice. So he wasn't doing it for benefit. He was doing it to please Krishna. So he said, maybe there's benefit from this, but I give it back to you. So this is for Krishna. This is no longer mine. So this is pure devotional service. Anya bilashvita shunyam. Nothing for ourselves. Yana karma dhyanabritam. Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhakta Uttama. Shilanam Bhakta, favorably done for Krishna's pleasure. And then he demonstrates this. This is not for me. That whole concept of Vaishnavism is such a beautiful thing. These hands that have been used selfishly are now for God and others. What a beautiful concept. With faith that happiness is love, it's not control and enjoyment, that happiness is actually service. And Vaishesha once gave a class, we quoted a famous motivational speaker, and the motivational speaker said, if one's ever feels sad, then find a person to serve. The shift away from that, the sadness is really on the heavy material identification and karma. Try to shift to the soul. Try to shift to the soul, because the soul is consciousness which reaches its perfection in love. Okay, I don't want to go too far ahead because we only have half of our students here. The rest come on Sunday, and we kind of, but Jamunajaya, you have some reflection today if you're still here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for class. I'm really enjoying this text, and just found out in the Bhakti Center at the back of the temple, they actually have copies of this text, which is really good. So I was able to sit and read a little bit. So I'm really relishing it. But I'm appreciating so much what you just last said, the shift to the soul. I love the way that you put that. And you've said it many times, but that these hands, that I always try to think that when I take the Anjali Mudra, that these hands I so often use for myself, let me use them for God and others. It's just such a powerful thing to remind ourselves of. So I was really appreciating that.
Nice points. Thank you, Jamunajaya. Anybody else have any reflection?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for the class. Yes, this is Krishna-katha. Yes, I still think about this statement that religious people don't live in the world of convenience. So it's not very easy, but necessary.
It's not, certainly not. Okay, anybody else? Say hello today.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Gail here.
Gail, some prashna, koi prashna?
What's the translation?
Any question, koi prashna.
I'm almost afraid to ask because it's always the same question. But I just like to know how, I understand that the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta is its message, which can be packaged in any way, Yeah. But I just want to know how you transition from speaking about the fact that Uttara got that message from her son, Parikshit Maharaj, and Janamejaya also got that message from Jaimini Rishi. How do you transition between those two stories?
That was the message that Jaimini Rishi gave Janamejaya when he asked for Akila a summary of the original Mahabharata. It was that Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta.
I know, but I'm saying in terms of the storyline, the chronology of the storyline, how do you go from Parikshit telling that to Uttara, how do you transition from that story to the Janamejaya Jaimini Rishi story?
Because I guess it was told to Parikshit, and then when it's told over again, then that becomes added to the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta. And then when Sanatana Goswami prays, then that becomes added to the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta. So these scriptures can expand like that.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, Tota Gopinath here.
Hi, Bo, Tota.
Glad to see you made it back to Jersey.
I did. How did I make it back? Who drove me there? How did I get back here? I even forgot. Oh, yeah, Jeff Eisenberg drove me back. Okay. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Namasak is here. Thank you so much for the wonderful
Nice to hear from you, Namasaki.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Anybody else?
Hare Krishna, Gurudev.
Jai Shri Radhe.
I'm very, Go
ahead.
I'm very impressed by the statement that environment tremendously affect your consciousness. I'm reflecting on it.
Therefore, you keep your place clean.
I think that's part of the process. Yeah.
Good. Haribo, great. Thank you. Nice to see you on. Ram Sadowski now is a little bit more independent, riding his bike around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You can be free from all worries. Okay. Anybody else? Say hello. Gopi Gita. Okay, we'll go.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Nice to see you.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Who's that?
Yavatsundari and Arazu. Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Oh, good. Somehow you can get through with reception. I heard in your country it's not easy.
Yes, sometimes the internet is not good, but now it's working, fortunately.
Okay.
Thank you very much.